Gary. Apparently what they say is nobody's ever totally ready for that job as far as the head coach.
Right.
Because all of a sudden you just go, oh, that's right, I'm in charge of that too, and I'm in charge of this. And he's probably got, 10 people coming into his office saying, hey, this is what I do for you. Like it's kind of like what I was talking about with like practice. The first day of practice, like he has a way he wants to practice.
Yeah.
And, whether it's split the guys up, and then everybody's going to have to learn that. But same thing, I was just telling you, Bob, I was going through all the names at the VMAC and all the different departments, and every department has like 10, 12 people. I mean, he's going to have to get to know all those people and how they support him. And so, yeah, I mean, it's I thought what Gary said there, I hadn't thought about that, but it's daunting. I mean, all of a sudden you're in charge of everything.
We'll talk more about coordinators coming up, but do you think that what you're saying there and just how big of a task it is for a first-time head coach, or any head coach for that matter, but first time, does it place that much more importance on perhaps having that experienced voice or two on your staff, whether it's a coordinator, whether it's a position coach, just somebody who's kind of been through the grind and you can lean on for, all right, in this situation, what did you do or what did you see?
Yeah, I would think especially for Macdonald, especially on the defensive side, because then – I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you could argue that the offense, I mean, the offensive coordinator you bring in there is going to be, kind of take over the offense. But I don't know. I think for him, he wants to call plays, I'm sure, and that'll probably happen. We'll hear from Mark Richt here in a minute. But, you're going to rely on somebody to kind of help you early on. But for the most part, that's going to be all you. And then if you look at it on the other side of the ball, the offensive coordinator, probably not going to spend a whole bunch of time with him. Right? I mean, that's your job is working the defense. So, I think this offensive coordinator hire is going to be really, to your point, very interesting and very important.
You brought up Mark Richt. We had a chance to speak with him yesterday. Great to catch up with him. If you guys missed that conversation, that interview, really good stuff. It's available on the podcast page at seattlesports.com. He explained what the biggest challenge was for him going from a coordinator position to being the guy in charge, the head coach.
You are definitely the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and you got a lot of responsibility in a lot of departments, so to speak, that you got to oversee, and the buck does stop with you. And then same thing in the NFL, you don't have as many, you don't have to recruit. You can spend most of your time on ball and the GM type of stuff. It's a different kind of responsibility, but the bottom line is the success or failure rests mostly on the head coach and the quarterback. As an assistant, like I was under Coach Bowden, and there was times I'd question, why did he do what he did? I don't get it. But then you sit in the chair and you realize there's a lot of things the head coach knows that no one else knows. And he's making decisions based on what he knows, not what you know.
It's cool realization. Why would you do that? Then he's the man going, I get it.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I like that. Well, and the other thing, I would say in this regard, big shoes to fill with Pete Carroll. John Kristoff, who was his kind of bodyguard, security detail, whatever you want to call it. I call it his copper.
Yeah.
John... He would always talk about Pete, and like he was constantly on the go. I would get a chance to talk to him, but he was always within 20 feet of Pete. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he's like, gotta go. And, he said Pete told him, look, I take more pictures than Santa Claus. So, I'm going to be on the move constantly. I mean, I think a lot of people are used to that energy.
Yeah.
And Mike Macdonald may not have that. So I think that's one thing that might be a little bit, getting used to. But I wonder how many people are going to come into his office, say, hey, I do this, I do that. It's going to be, he's going to be tired at the end of the day here about 3 weeks.
The wall behind his desk will be full of Polaroids like in Seinfeld with people's picture and their name written on it. So he can look at them and then turn to the wall and go, oh, Dave, oh, good to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. You're right. It's a lot to take in. Everything's new. Everything, he's probably figuring out how to get around. Where's the bathroom? Where do I go to eat? Where's the film room? So everything is new down to just the minute details there. But in looking at this press conference yesterday, we all walked away going, yeah, I like what I heard. I liked his demeanor, and it's certainly different than others. And we'll get into what Jim Harbaugh said in his press conference. But was there anything you wanted to hear him say that he didn't say?
Yeah, I mean, if it was convenient totally for me and tailored and structured for my enjoyment, I would have said, could I get a list of your coaches? I mean, that's the part I think,
Anything realistically he could have said.
Yeah, you asked that question. I was like, yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, I don't know how much he can tell you about himself. He's a fairly young guy. He's had plenty of experiences, but, really that's what everybody's waiting for now. And I thought that was one of the more interesting things and I'll be curious to hear from John the process, because when you're going in and talking to these guys, is it like, hey, I kind of have an idea for an offensive coordinator for you, or is it's all on you?
Yeah.
You get a...
What's your sense? I mean, John, I feel like it's going to be a team effort. Like they're going to be working together. Like, hey, here's a guy I like. What do you think of him? And they'll come to that decision together. But I could be 1,000% wrong.
Yeah, I could see it that way because John, and also I could see it like if I don't think John's going to be overly overbearing about it. Like, hey, this is what we want. I think it's going to be, hey, what do you think of this guy? Well, here's what I was thinking, and those two collaborate. I think that would be more likely what happens. But I don't know if I'm John. Like I hear stories about like how some of the position coaches will get involved in the draft, and start talking about, well, that guy, I don't like him coming out of college and stuff. And I'm like, that's not really your job. Your job is to coach him up. Now, I'm not saying that you don't know what you're looking at, but the college scouts are the ones that go out and, and they get that information. And, I feel like, that's kind of something where you kind of stay in your lane a little bit. And I would think that John would sort of defer to him a little bit if it's about coaching, and then vice versa.
What about coordinators? Would you want your defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator to have a say, or at least be able to go, hey, Dave Wyman, you're our defensive coordinator. What do you think of this linebacker we're looking at in the third round? I mean, just to get somebody's opinion. To me, there's value in that. Maybe not down the line to here's the secondary coach's opinion, and here's the assistant secondary coach's opinion. Maybe just the coordinators at least.
Yeah, no, and I think also coaches can also chime in. There's no question about that. It's just that when you shut a guy down, because it's like, oh well, our receiver coach says he can't work with that guy or whatever. I feel like that's kind of what the scouts are there for. And so, and I think that there's that's the one thing I remember John saying last year, that with Clint Hurt and those guys were pretty friendly with the personnel department. Like they kind of work together.